People don't give a fuck what you say. A lot of people do not understand this. They care about what you do. All of a sudden, you second guessing so many obstacles in my path.
I'ma hold your hand when I say
You don't think that you gonna make
it
it?
seems like there's something standing in my way. Keep relying on
It
tomorrow.
could change the entire trajectory of your life. You the baseline. The moment that they see you not display the things that you preach, it don't fucking matter. You feel me? What's going on, everybody? It's that ordinary podcaster with the extraordinary thoughts that tells you to stop being great and be extraordinary. I'm your host, Demetrius Thickpen, also known as Meech Speaks, and welcome back to another episode of the Meech Speaks podcast. Now, before we get started with this podcast, don't forget to head on over to your favorite streaming platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, and leave this podcast an honest review, because this podcast deserves to grow just as much as we do. Now, first guest of the year. And, I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest with you, because when I came into the new year, I asked for alignment. I didn't ask for growth. I didn't ask for anything crazy. I just asked for alignment. And it seemed like everything just started to just line up the way that it was supposed to. Things started to subtract before they actually started to add, but it felt like as if I was moving into that direction. Now, as I was moving into that direction, I want to say I came across a video, right? I came across a video. And during this video, I'm frustrated. I ain't even about to lie to you. I'm frustrated. Okay? Because we're talking about another rebrand. We're talking about another name change. We're talking about all of these things. And I'm beating myself up before I even make the major debut. And when I came across this video, it spoke these words about this poem. Okay, it spoke these words about this poem, and that poem, it resonated so deeply with me. And I just really want to just share this with you on a Monday morning. I finally found my rhythm when I realized that even the steps backward were part of the dance. Now, you got to imagine where I'm at. You see what I'm saying? You got to imagine where I'm at, because I felt like I took 50 steps backwards. And when I heard it, you see what I'm saying? When I heard it, it gave clarity, it gave recognition, it gave alignment to what exactly I had been asking for. And I shared it. I shared that video. And immediately somebody said, like, no, that's not, this is the author, this is the author, this is the author. And I'm like this, hey, look, hey, hold on now. Because one thing I am going to do is reach out to her. And that's exactly what I did. So, ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you as the first guest of this year, okay? Author, poet, self-love educator, author of books such as Self-Love Poetry for Thinkers and Feelers, The ABCs of Self-Love, The Shift, Poetry for a New Perspective, and lastly, Moon Garden, Poetry for Manifestation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Melody Godfred to the show. Did I do that right? Please tell me I did that right. Thank you, God. If you could see the sweat on my brow, if you can see the sweat on my brow,
Demetrius,
I
let's
was,
make this easy. We're old friends.
I was like, please say her name correctly. Get everything in order. Give her the introduction that she truly deserves, because you have really jump-started my year, man. You have really jump-started my year.
It goes both ways, truly. Hearing you speak right now about what you were seeking for yourself in this year, that's exactly where I am too. And I think that's why we met, is we're vibrating on that same frequency of not seeking attainment, but seeking alignment. And that's the most profound shift any of us can ever make.
I love that. Now, as we jump into today's episode, I remember talking to you prior to this, and your story was so powerful to me, and it resonated so deeply, because there were things that I felt like, it almost felt like as if I was getting ready for something, you know what I mean? And your story just really stood out to me. And I asked, like, do you mind just sharing that, please?
I'm happy to. I was born with a very clear sense of who I was. From a very young age, I was an artist, I was a musician, I was a piano player, I was a singer, I was a poet. And then along the way, I think, as is the case with so many of us, who I was didn't feel like it was enough. And so I started focusing on attainment, accomplishment, ambition. What is the right path I should be taking? And I really leaned away from my creativity and into my intellect. Let me be the smartest person in the room. Let me get the most ambitious job I could. Let me be as safe as possible. And that led me all the way to becoming a lawyer, which was a huge, hill to climb. But I got there because the voice in my head that told me, "You're not enough, do more," was so loud. And I got there, and I got there in a lot of different ways. I got to the pinnacle of career at a very young age. I was a lawyer, I was married, I had 2 beautiful twin daughters. I had checked off all the boxes, and when I got to the top of that self-made mountain, I realized I had left myself behind, and that was just a crushing feeling.
Hold on, can you say that piece right there one more time? Like that one I hold on, let me get this in order real quick because I knew that this episode was gonna be good. I knew it was gonna be good. I didn't know it was gonna be that good. But that line right there, do you mind just saying that one more
Yeah.
time?
When I had reached the top of my self-made mountain, I realized I had left myself behind.
And what do you mean by that?
I mean, I checked all the boxes. I did all the things we're supposed to do, and the goal, the payoff, the pat on the back is supposed to be happiness. And what went wrong? That I did everything right and I wasn't happy. And I realized it's because to use your word, I was not in alignment. I deeply believe each and every one of us is put on this planet with singular gifts, with singular purpose, and it is our responsibility and also our privilege to show up as our true selves. But there's all this noise that tells us that who we are isn't right and we should be doing something else. And that's exactly what I had done. I had chosen a path because it sounded good on paper, but it didn't resonate in my heart. And I had to stop and recalibrate everything after I realized that.
You know, it once again, when I hear your story, it resonates so deeply because of the simple fact that these are things that I've experienced. These are things that I've talked to many service members and they have experienced, and as soon as you said like, I got to the top of this self-made mountain and I left myself behind. Oh,
Mm.
my heart goes out to the top performer. You know what I mean? Like my heart goes out to my heart goes out to me before I realized that I had a gift.
Yeah.
Because I remember working hard and giving it 100% and doing everything in alignment to what everyone wanted me to do. I'm a great Marine. I'm a great Marine.
I'm sure the best.
But why do I feel so unfulfilled? And that's the piece. Like no matter how much praise, no matter how many accolades I win, I don't feel fulfilled. And that's when I realized like I had got to this mountain, but I never really brought myself with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Ooh,
well, I'm
ooh.
telling you, it's when alignment has been really, really big. And I just want to ask, like, once you realize that, like, what was the next step?
The way I realize that I think is so important to mention. Even though my head thought everything was okay, my body was not okay.
Mm,
You said that I have a soothing voice, I have this calm energy. At that time, I was so anxious. I couldn't sleep. I would hallucinate, like literally wake up hallucinating. And it was because my body was telling me, hey, pay attention. This is not working for you. And even though I
mm,
tried to push that down, and I think we all try to push down our bodies knowing in different ways, I tried
mhm,
so hard to push it down, but eventually I couldn't ignore it anymore. And so I had to recalibrate my life. So I walked away from that job. I took a big leap of faith and I started writing. And I actually wrote a book back in 2009. Right after I'd given my notice, I started writing. And, to go back to that poem that you shared of mine, the dance of my life, it took many steps backward. People look at me now and they're like, oh my God, you've written 4 books. You got a traditional book deal. I've sold almost 400,000 copies of my books in the last 5 years. It sounds very impressive.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you. But,
Yes.
a lot of people don't mention that, well, actually, from the time I wrote my first book, the book that I don't even talk about, the book that I wrote to save myself from going down the wrong path, it was over 10 years between that I started writing and when I got the book deal. And I first self-published, and, the first 2 books I self-published, no one really cared about, and nothing happened. It wasn't until I kept going and kept showing up and honing my craft and committing to my truth that the alignment came. And I think the reason is that, life is secular. Like, we think that life is a straight line and that all we have to do is keep pushing forward and pushing up. And then when something goes wrong, we think, oh my God, we fell off the milestones, we miss them, it's too late for us. But for me, when I think of life as a circle, I see that I just keep revisiting myself over and over, but as a truer, stronger, more authentic version of who I am. And when you do that, the wins get bigger and bigger. Not because you're lucky, not because, you worked so hard, but because you stuck with it and because you were true. And that's what happened to
Mm.
me. It didn't happen overnight. I'm a big, warrior against this cultural identity that we all embrace of perfection and instant success and viral fame. And the people who are winning didn't win because they had one viral video or because they submitted to get one book deal or because they applied to one job. The winners applied to 100 jobs. You just don't ever hear about the 99 that came before the win. The winners were of service. They served their country, and they had the bravery when that chapter was open to think, I'm going to revisit myself again and see what else I can do now. Because their path is not linear. It's not over just when one chapter closes. And I've had many chapters, and so have you. And I think that's why we connect.
You know, what's so crazy is that you really hit the recruiter man first. You really touched on the recruiter man. And I try my best not to make these make these episodes about me being on recruiting duty. But when you said, everybody sees the win. Everybody sees this big win. Like, oh, congratulations. Look at everything that you've done. They don't know how many times you failed. They don't know the no's. They don't know the losses. There's so many, there's a backyard filled,
Yeah.
with broken light bulbs before you actually saw the one that turned on. But the one that really stood out, is just the circle. Because one thing that I've always told people, and one thing that I've always said to myself is that these lessons, right? Like these lessons in life, they have a tendency to repeat themselves. They will show up in different people. They're going to show up in different forms. They're just going to show up in a different way. And if you don't learn from it, I promise you, it's going to come back again. It's going to come back again. And I just love the way that you just put that it's a circle because it comes back again.
Yeah, and the beauty comes back again too. It's not just the lessons, the hard lessons. The magic comes back again. The fact that I get to reconnect with the 9-year-old girl that I was, who was writing poems every single day as a way to make sense of her world, I get to play with her now in my 40s because
You
I
know,
believe she's still available.
what's so crazy about that, and I apologize, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No, not
but
at all.
I remember you bringing that up about how your first poem was published when you were in the 4th grade.
Yeah.
And how many years was that when you published your second poem?
Well, my first poetry book was 30 years later. Yeah, that's when I wrote self-love poetry for thinkers and feelers, was literally 30 years later. And that's the book that was my breakout book that became an instant bestseller and attracted yeah, that's the one, and attracted my publisher to me and made everything happen.
This is your breakout?
Yeah, that was my breakout book. The book that has the poem that you love about the dance.
Ma'am, this book has had me in a headlock since it's been here.
Thank you.
This is your breakout?
Yeah, that was my breakout. That's where I wanna say that's where it all started, but we all know it started when I was in the 4th grade.
You know, I knew this was gonna be a good book when the first page in your dedication, it was, "My life was suddenly awoken with such a jolt that I think I'll be awake forever." I Wait a minute. You wrote that when you were 11.
Yeah.
This came from when you were 11 years old?
Yes, I wrote that when I was 11, and that's why it's in the dedication because the book is for her.
Melody, my eyes get watery when I read this because this right here, this means so much to me, and the reason why I wanted to even bring that piece up is because I remember when I finally realized I even had a gift. I spent so many years believing that I never had a gift. My brother was good at sports. My sister was good at sports. My mom was good at sports. My sister could dance. My brother was great with people. And I always felt like a runt. And I would show up second place, third place, and just accepted that I didn't have a gift. Even in the Marine Corps, I'm talking about I'm a top tier performer. And I said that I just got good at being in the Marine Corps. And when I finally found out that I had a gift, when I found when I found out that I could speak and I was good at speaking, it was as if I had finally came to life.
Mm.
It was it was that, like, people describe it as, like, 'cause no one remembers when their life started, they just remember it just happening,
Mhm.
and that's exactly what it felt like. So when I read that, and that feeling of just being like, you're just gonna be awake now.
Yes.
Like, that's exactly what it felt like. Like, that I knew this book was gonna be good the moment that I read that.
Yeah.
So, the fact that I just now saw age 11 and put it to perspective that you wrote that, that was when you wrote that when you were 11, it's so wow.
But
Things
the
really do happen in circles.
it circles, and, it doesn't mean that if you haven't had that moment yet, that it's too late for you, because I always say this, it is never too late to be who you are. It is never too late to be who you are, and that curiosity about yourself, which I think is part of the self-love journey, being open to all parts of yourself, not treating anything as off limits or compartmentalizing yourself into the good parts and the bad parts. That's the journey of a lifetime. Like, what an amazing adventure we get to take with ourselves. And, I literally had this conversation with my daughter today. She's 13 years old and she plays lacrosse. And we were coming home from her lacrosse game. And I was just saying, I am so in awe of you because you're an athlete. And she goes, "Yeah, but didn't you play sports when you were little?" I was like, "Yeah, I played basketball because I thought I was supposed to, but I was terrible at it and I never enjoyed it. And, it wasn't my thing. And I just did it because I felt this pressure to do it." When the truth is, we all have different talents. Your brother was the athlete, you're the speaker, and my daughter's the lacrosse player, and I'm the poet. And we all have something in us that we can offer to the world. And I think when you think of it as an act of service, then that focus on yourself stops feeling selfish. I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I don't want to focus on myself too much. That's selfish, that's bad. But I actually think going inward is a process of, okay, well, why am I here and what can I do with my gifts?
Mm.
And we all have something to offer, all of us, every single one of us.
You know, what what stands out about that phrase right there, like, "It's never too late to be who you are." I know somebody right now is about to get out of the Marine Corps 20 years from now. 20 years 20 years of service, and they're about to jumpstart the dream that they have been waiting to do. I was talking to my mom, I wanna say 2 days ago, and my older brother came into question. Played sports his entire life, worked in the factory, I wanna say 25 years, became a registered nurse, it was literally like a night and day career choice,
Wow.
and I was like, "How is he doing?" And she said, "He loves it."
Mm.
And I thought I was so happy for him, you know what I mean? Like, I was just so happy for him to finally find something that he loved, you know, and to be doing something. And my heart also breaks, you know? Like, my heart also breaks because it's so many people that will go their entire lives and never be that person. They'll never be who they are, you know? So, oh, man.
Well, I again, like, it's truly never too late. I was at an event last month in Ojai, California, sharing my book, and this woman comes up and she goes, "I'm here for you." And I said, "Excuse me?" Like, she goes, "I came here for you. I drove from Santa Barbara because I wanted to meet you because I read your book, Self-Love Poetry, and it changed my life. For the first time in my life, I love myself and I'm doing all the things I never gave myself permission to do." She started painting again and sharing her
Uh-huh.
art. Do you know how old she was? She was
Oh,
74 years old.
really?
Mhm. And she was so excited for her future. So
That
it's
warms my heart. I love
right?
that.
She
I
was
love
such
that
a
for her.
jewel. She was such a jewel, and she made my day
Hmm.
because that's why I write is to connect with people. I always say it's my sneaky way of meeting kindred spirits. The book is
Mm.
just my pathway to people. It was my pathway to you. Hopefully, it'll be my pathway to your listeners. Um, I think we've all become a little bit too disconnected from each other. And if there's one thing I leave listeners with or readers of my book, it's I want them to know that we're all in this together. I love you. I love you. I'm connected to you. We're all going through it together. And even if it seems like we're so different, our hearts are the same, the truth is the same, what resonates deeply is the same, and that's what I try to bring to the surface, those common threads between all of us.
Mm. I knew this episode was gonna be good. I knew this. I just knew. I just knew that you were the right guest
Thank
for the right moment to start this year. And oh, God, I tell you, now as we switch gears and but we stay on, you know, self-love, I do have to ask, what does because one of the hardest things to really grasp, especially from the military perspective, hell, just from a male's perspective, honestly, because it took me, I say honestly, it took me almost 30 years to even understand what self-love was. If
Mhm.
you would have met me at 25, I wouldn't even have known what that was, you know? And I meet so many people who still have such a hard time grasping this concept. But what does real self-love look like in practice?
So I've thought about this so much, and as you've seen, I've written several books about it. And for me, self love is a commitment to being your authentic self every day. It's a commitment to building a life that's in alignment with who you are. It's about knowing who you are and embracing your self worth and your wholeness all within yourself and moving through the world from that place of wholeness. What self love isn't is putting yourself above everyone else. It's not about separating yourself from anyone else. It's about a pathway to wholeness and community that's grounded in your own self acceptance and knowing and care and trust. And of course, love, seeing who you are and loving it. And that means loving all of it, loving the fear, the guilt, the regret, the shame, the pain, the failures, and also the joy, the wins, the gratitude, the hope, everything. That is what self-love means to me.
My favorite thing about that is the fact that you talk about both sides of this, you
Mhm.
know, and I think the hardest piece about this is that everyone, when they hear self-love, they think of it as like this fairy tales and happy go land. And, you know, and that's not what it is.
No.
Like you got to be able to love yourself even during the failures, during the rough times, during the storms. And I love the fact that you said that, because I feel like honestly, that's probably when you need to love yourself the most. Is
Yes.
when you know what I mean? Like it's easy to be able to love yourself when everything going good,
Yeah.
but can you still love yourself the exact same way when things are not going that way? And I feel like,
Yeah.
whew,
We all have that voice. I don't know about you. This is the voice in my head. When anything goes wrong, I have a voice that immediately starts speaking very loudly that says, "You are so stupid." Like, that is what's going on in my head. "How could you do that? Why did you let that happen? You should know better." Self-love allowed me to introduce a second voice into my head that says, "Hush, she did her best." Because the truth of the matter is, and like that made me teary because it is so hard to quiet the critical voice. But I'm always doing my best. Does that mean it's always perfect? That I always succeed? That I can always see the future and avoid any pitfalls? No way. But I can rest my head on my pillow every day, knowing at the end of the day that I did my best. I did my best. I did my best. And that's a new voice. I think 10 years ago, that voice definitely didn't exist. It was just a chorus of failure in my mind. And now, and I write this in The Shift, one of the poems I wrote, it says, I now have a chorus of support singing for me, and their names are Mercy, Grace, and Faith. And I carry those voices in my head, mercy, grace, and faith for myself and for others as well. And that's the real beauty of self-love is when you give yourself grace, you can give other people grace. When you give yourself mercy, you can give other people mercy. When you show yourself love, then you can give people the kind of love that they actually need, which is unquestioning, unconditional, and not trying to fix something. The kind of love I show myself is the love I give others, which is a love that says, I see you, I witness you, I celebrate you, I stand with you. And that came from my own work within myself. Even though I I'm sure you can tell, I am number 1 on anyone's speed dial who needs help. I will always help everyone. I've always been there for everyone, but I'm not trying to fix them anymore. I'm not trying to fix their problems. I'm being with them. And I think that's what we all need. We're not looking when we're vulnerable, we're not looking for someone to come in and say, "Oh, here's what you need to do to fix it." We just want someone to hold us and say, "I see you. That's hard. I'm here with you." And self-love is that bridge of love that I now am able to offer other people.
I wish I did more mascara for this episode. What's so crazy about that is that first off, I really need you to get out of my head. I really need you to get out of my head because I love how you said like I don't know if you have what you hear, but of course I do. Of course I hear this hypercritical voice constantly telling me when I messed up, and that's the only time where I actually do hear it. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure like there's somebody listening to this episode right now that can resonate with it, that feels exactly what you're saying. Of course I hear that voice. That's the only voice that I hear, especially when I mess up. Hell, I hear that voice louder than I hear the person that's on the outside critiquing me.
Yeah.
Like, don't
Ooh.
waste your time, don't waste your time critiquing me. I've already critiqued it. I've already done it.
Yeah.
I rarely hear he did his best.
Yeah.
He did his best. And that right there, like it break a thug down. I ain't about to lie to you when someone says that you did your best, because I know people right now that haven't heard that in years. I know people right now that have never heard that. I just had to tell myself in my head, you're doing your best.
Yeah.
And that right there just felt so relieving.
It feels so good. It feels
Yes.
so like a breath that you didn't know you were holding and you can finally let it go. And, one thing that was really interesting to me is I also am somebody who tends to self-blame. Like, even when
Mhm.
something's not my fault, I make it my fault. You know, like, silly example, like, we had we had a rodent issue, and it's not my fault that somehow some mouse got in my house. That's not my fault, but of course, my in my mind, I'm like, "Oh my god, I didn't check for holes. I haven't been taking care of the house. I didn't, anticipate this problem and solve it." And the science of it, which is so interesting. Do you know why we do that? Do you know
Why?
why we blame ourselves?
Why?
It's because it gives us a false sense of control, because it makes something that is random feel like we had a say in it. And all of us are constantly seeking control in an effort to feel safe, because our nervous systems are in such a constant state of fight or flight, something I'm sure you know about having been in the military. We are always on such high alert that we would rather blame ourselves than believe that actually we don't have control over anything. Like, everything is random, anything can happen to us. We can't protect ourselves from every bad thing the world is going to put in our homes, in our laps, in our hearts, and on our front porches. We don't have control, and so we'd rather blame ourselves than come face to face with the uncertainty of our lives. We'd rather blame ourselves than make peace with uncertainty. And I don't do that anymore. It's not my fault. Some things are, obviously, but most of what I was blaming myself for was not my fault.
Chris, did you give her a bio on me or something? Like, does she have, like did you give her, like, things about me that you wanted her to talk about? Because how did you know I do that? How did you know I do that?
Because you're a survivor, and so am I, and so are your listeners. And
And I
survivors do whatever it takes to feel safe, even if it's to our own detriment.
Mm. I used to beat myself up about that so much because I'll be like, "Dude, like, that has nothing to do with you." Like, literally, I the worst part about it is that you can rationalize it, you could put logic on it, and it still won't make sense to you because you
Mhm.
don't understand why you're doing it, and
Yeah.
that provided so much clarity in the sense of, like, you're trying to still maintain control. You're trying to have control of something when it's literally uncertainty. That literally has nothing to do with you, and if I could just send that out on a megaphone to a lot of people that need to hear that you're trying to take blame for something that has absolutely nothing to do with you,
Yeah.
and you wanna have control in it, and I promise you just let it go. Let it go because that ain't got nothing to do with you,
You
so
you know what I wrote? I wrote something a week or 2 ago, and it's very simple. If it's not in your hands, let it go. And that visual of, if it's literally physically, if it's not in your hands, let it go. Because so much of what we struggle with is not in our hands.
Mhm.
And,
I love it.
in Moon Garden, I write, letting go isn't losing, letting go is liberation.
Mm. What do you mean?
It's freedom you can give yourself. We cling on to things in an effort to feel safe, in an effort to protect ourselves, in an effort to be sometimes nostalgic, to hold on to our past, whatever it is, we cling and we think that that makes us stoic or brave. But really, it's a prison in our own mind, all the things we hold on to, because we don't want to let go. We don't want to give up. We don't want to act like we gave up, like we weren't strong enough to hold it anymore.
I hear that.
But, in self-love poetry, I said I didn't realize how much I was carrying until I put it all down.
That's literally the second one that I was gonna bring up.
Oh, good. Because I'm
Because
reading your mind. I'm reading the script.
literally
I'm reading the Meech Speaks script.
literally because it's in here and I remember highlighting that and I was just like, man, like you don't realize when you finally put it down how heavy it really was. You just because you've been carrying it for so long. And I remember when you mentioned it, God, I want to paraphrase it so bad, but if it feels like as if like people don't notice your hard work, stop making it look so effortlessly. And I feel like those two, they run right next to each other because it's like you don't realize how heavy it is until you got to pick it up, until you see me pick it back up. Like you don't realize like I just look good doing this.
Well,
I've been carrying this for a while.
are you now in my head? Because the latest reel I posted on Instagram an hour ago was that poem, "If your hard work feels unseen, stop making it look so effortless." I
Mm,
haven't shared that in a long time, and I literally felt compelled to share it today, and it's probably because I picked up on you connecting with it. But, we live in a culture where everyone wants to be the martyr. I know, at least for me, coming from a long line of strong women, my mom thrives or seemingly thrives on making it look easy. And you know
mhm.
what? It's not easy. None of it's easy.
No,
None
it's
of it's
not.
easy. And
Mhm,
that goes back to what we talked about at the beginning, like we live in a culture where no one wants to talk about the 99 failures. They just want to talk about the win.
mhm,
And, I'm going to show you, I'm sitting at my desk and this is what I keep on top of my desk and I read it every day. It says, "Ever tried, ever failed, no matter. Try again, fail better." And that's my reminder to just keep failing because that means I'm alive. Back to being awake and alive. Failure is proof of life. The
mm.
people who aren't failing aren't living. And we don't get that message enough.
I love that. I love that, because I'm a firm believer because people always say, I don't want to fail. I'm trying to, or avoid failure. And I'm like, bro, like failure is a part of everything that you want.
Yes.
You know, you're going to experience, in fact, you're probably going to experience failure more times than you're going to experience success.
Yeah.
Like, failure is literally it's the road to it. Like, if you wanna get to the success that you're trying to get to you aspire for, you're going to fail, man. Like, you're gonna fail, you're gonna feel like you're not moving forward, you're gonna feel like you're taking a couple of steps backwards, you're gonna fall on your face. Is how many times are you gonna keep getting back up and moving forward? And that piece right there, like, that's it right there.
Well, it's because success requires mastery,
Mm,
and mastery requires failure. You cannot become a master of something if you just get it on the first try. There's no mastery in instant.
mhm,
Mastery is revisiting the same thing over and over and over, and each time becoming incrementally stronger and smarter and more aligned and more connected and more powerful. That's mastery. But that's not a straight line. That's the dance. It's the failures, it's the wins, it's the trying something new, it's getting out of your comfort zone, it's trusting yourself enough to be vulnerable
yes.
and taking that risk because I think we could all play it very safe and play it very small and never be vulnerable and never be authentic or true. But where would that get us? I don't know that it would bring us to this moment where you and I are connecting here on your podcast. I don't think your podcast would have existed if you were playing it safe, if you weren't
Mhm.
committed to mastery, if you weren't okay with failure. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be here with you. I'd be in a cubicle writing legal briefs.
Well, ma'am, I would be yelling at a Marine right now.
Yeah.
If I just didn't take that leap, that leap of faith and just trust that jolt. If I would have just went back to sleep after receiving that
Yeah.
jolt, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So oh, let's keep them together. Let's keep them together for after the episode. Now, one thing that I have been asking myself because I love the way that this book is set up, and it's for the thinkers and failures. And I just want to ask, like, what does that mean?
So, the way this book is designed, it's 100 pairs of poems, and the left side is for the thinkers and it appeals to the left brain. And so all of us, we have a left brain and a right brain. The left brain is more analytical, more editorial, more critical. It's more the math and science part of our brain. And then the right brain, which is for the feelers, which is the right side of the book, is more intuitive, more emotional, more creative. And the way I came to this book format and book title is I had written, I think, 700 poems before I decided to write this book. And when I was reading them, I thought to myself, this is this is not a I can't make this a book. Doesn't make sense. Like the style is so different. Some of my poems are really short and they feel like a gut punch, and some of them are more lyrical and longer and more emotional. Like how can I reconcile that? Like people are going to think I'm a joke. There isn't a consistent style. And then I realized, well, I am all of the things. I am the left brain thinker. I am the right brain feeler. Why should I compartmentalize myself? Why should I limit myself to one thing? And that's where I got the idea for the book. And I really feel that it's so interesting hearing people reflect on the book because everyone falls on one side at the beginning where they'll reach out and say, "Oh, I'm definitely the right brain poems. Those are for me," or the left, are for me. But the truth is that after you read the book, you activate all of it because we are all whole-souled beings. And that's so much fun, is to how reading 2 poems in different styles that are about the same thing can really activate this wholeness within yourself.
First and foremost, I just wanna applaud you because there was some doubt, there was some negative self-talk, there was so much that if you would have listened to that, I wouldn't have gotten a chance to
With you.
experience this. So many people would have never gotten a chance to actually experience this.
Thank you.
So I applaud you because there's somebody right now, and I don't know who need to hear this. I don't know who need to hear this, but they driving to a job that they don't want for money that they need. The whole time that they drive and they passions, they dreams, they aspirations, they live in the backseat of the car. They go to the job, they punch the clock, and they'll make somebody else richer. And then they'll come home, look their kids in the eyes, and tell them to follow their dreams. And the whole time that they did. And it wasn't just somebody else telling them not to do it. It started
Mm,
it was them.
yeah,
They get that idea and then they immediately talk themselves out of it.
yeah.
They do more maneuver talking themselves out of it when they coulda just did it, and when you say that, you know what I mean, and you're just like, "You know what? Imma put them on Imma put them on 2 sides. For the thinkers and the feelers, it's just like, you know what? Some people gonna like it, some people, but I'm giving it to you."
Yeah,
And I just applaud you because if you didn't do that,
thank
we
you.
wouldn't be here, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Demetrius. And, I will say, and I think this is so important, again, it was not an overnight process. From when I was a lawyer to when I became a full-time author, I started 2 different businesses. The first one was a resume writing company. I wrote thousands of resumes for people. I paid my bills, I paid my dues, but in my downtime, I was writing for me. And I think it's easy to tell people, "Oh, just, quit your day job, go pursue your dreams," but that's not realistic for anybody
Mhm.
these days. And I'm so lucky, I'm married, I had the support of my partner, I'm very close to my family, I had a lot of support. But I also realized that in order to earn the space for my dreams, I had to make the space. No one was going to hand it to me. And so I paid my dues. I grew into my dream. And so for anyone who's listening who is driving to that job that maybe doesn't fulfill them, but they have to pay their bills, all you have to do is open the door to making space for your dream. And maybe it starts out as like 5 minutes of brainstorming during your lunch break. Maybe it's 1 hour on the weekend. Maybe it's you put together a few of your vacation days and start growing something. The aliveness that you feel when you're in alignment with your purpose will become your fuel. It's what's going to give you the energy to carry your day job and your dream job until one day you can make the full transition. But to your point, you have to do it because you don't want what you're selling to your children to be a lie. We don't wanna
Mhm.
tell our children, "Follow your dreams," when we ourselves are not modeling that for them, because any parent can tell you, do kids listen to anything we say? Absolutely not. Do they do as we do? Yes. They do what they see, and if they see a
Mhm.
parent who's burnt out and unhappy with work and just suffering through the grind of life, invariably that's who they will become too, no matter how many times you tell them follow your dream. So, this work, self love, self discovery, alignment with our purpose, it's not just for us, it's for our kids, it's for the future, it's for the future generations. And, that makes me hopeful because I think more and more people are having this conversation that we're having. And how beautiful is that, that the next generation gets a more expansive possibility of what life can be?
Now, as we come to a close to this episode, one question that's been on my mind, and I just would love to ask you, especially as we talk about loving ourselves, is what's the hardest part about loving yourself and your perspective?
The hardest part of loving myself, I think it's that everything that stands in the way of me loving myself never goes away. It's not like you get a certificate from a self-love course and all of a sudden, boom, you've eliminated all the barriers. It's this constant journey that you take with yourself, and sometimes it is harder to drown out the self-doubt. Sometimes it's harder to not drag up the past into the present and be weighed down by it. Sometimes it's harder, especially in the world we live in now, not to look at the future with fear in your heart and your soul. And that's why I think self-love needs to be a ritual. It needs to be part of your life in a daily capacity so that you practice it. And it isn't just fancy words that you say, but actually a feeling and practice that you embody. So I think that's what I would say. It's the hardest part is it's not a quick fix. We're all looking for the quick fix. This is certainly not one of them. It's something that you will be called to revisit every day of your life. Um, but it's worth it, you know? It is so worth it. And I'm so grateful to be here because of it.
I love the transparency. I love the reality to it. I love the reality.
Yeah,
God, I love the reality because there's so many times where we sit back and we say like, "Oh, well, it's what you see on social media." No, it's not. It's there's a lot that comes with this, and I just want to just thank you so much for bringing that piece to this episode. But as we come to a close of this episode, do you have any new projects? Where can we find you? And do you have any parting words for us?
of course. So I love to hear from you. So please reach out to me. I'm on all the social platforms at Melody Godfred. I also have a Substack that I've newly launched called The Poetry Oracle, where when you sign up, you get weekly messages from the universe through my poetry to keep you going. And that's at melodygodfred.substack.com. As Meech said, I have 4 books, the most recent of which is Moon Garden, Poetry for Manifestation. And in my book, manifestation is an alignment with your nature and with Mother Nature. And it's a beautiful journey led by the 12 moons of the year. So that is my latest project. I'd love for you to pick it up and use it as a guide as you journey through 2026. In terms of parting words, I'm going to just repeat what we shared earlier, which is you're doing your best, and I see you and I'm celebrating you. And I hope that we can all continue to see and celebrate each other every single day.
And just like that, another extraordinary thought left this ordinary mind. I hope you enjoyed this episode half as much as I enjoyed making it. Don't forget to head on over to your favorite streaming platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, and leave this podcast an honest review because this podcast deserves to grow just as much as we do. Also, don't forget to head on over to TikTok or Instagram and follow me at Meech Speaks. That's right, Meech Speaks. Meech is spelled Meech. Stay motivated, stay healthy. I'm out.